Hey friends, I'm Tiffany,
And I'm Nick.
and you're listening to the Twisdom Podcast. We are typical twins talking about mental health.
And getting better every day. Cool. So, man, this year is already starting off to a crazy start. I mean, there's 64 countries that are having an election year this year. I think mortgage interest rates just started to increase again last week. There's been plenty of tech layoffs. Netflix has ads now. I honestly don't know what to expect, and it's only February. We got a whole year ahead of us, and I don't know, I feel like most people are kind of in the same boat. They're anxious about this year. It's a lot of unexpected, a lot of uncertainties going on, and yeah, I don't know, I wanted to ask you, what are some uncertainties that make you anxious?
Yeah, there are a few things that make me anxious. Uncertainties. One random thing is when I am driving somewhere and I'm not sure how the parking is going to be. That makes me anxious because, like, nobody wants to pay for parking, and then some places don't have parking spaces, and then I'm like, oh, I got to parallel park. So that uncertainty with parking makes me anxious. Another uncertainty is just outcomes, like how if I have a job interview, how's the interview gonna go? If I have a presentation or a meeting, how is that gonna go? Am I gonna mess up? Am I gonna do well? Just uncertainties with outcomes and also new opportunities. Um, there's a lot of uncertainty around that for me of just like moving to a new place and got to make friends, got to have a social life, and um, also got to figure out other things like adulting, which is a whole nother topic. I won't get into that. Just the uncertainties that come with each stage of life. So, quite a few things can make me anxious that are more uncertain.
I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah. And I guess now I kind of want to turn it back to you when we're talking about anxiety and all these uncertainties that make us anxious. How has anxiety influenced you, and how do you influence anxiety?
It's a really good question. How do I influence anxiety? Man, I could start with how anxiety influenced me. uh GAD is rough, as you know. It's just every little thing you start to worry about. And I remember a certain time in my life where I was just having panic attacks, just about one every week. Honestly, it would just be bad. I couldn't leave the house. I would get anxious about even going to the grocery store. There's just a lot going on, a lot of uncertainties. I think at the time I was worried about graduation, starting a new career, all this other stuff. And yeah, it was bad. It was a really bad time. And at that time, I really didn't have any control over my anxiety. And when I'm thinking about how do I influence anxiety, I kind of think about it like fighting anxiety, right? And that kind of sounds terrifying, but when you roll with the punches, so to speak, better yet, I remember a time when I was in a boxing club, and for the first time in the club, we started sparring matches, and I got matched up with this 6'5" tall guy, very intimidating, tattoos, super buff. His reach was like twice as mine, and I remember I was the first one to fight him, and we did short 90-second rounds. But me, who's specifically like just scrawny and just like going up against this Goliath, my strategy was to be an outfighter. And that means it's just get in and get out, But I couldn't do that because, like I said, his reach was so long and this dude was gargantuan, bro. So
Mm,
I completely had to throw my strategy out the window, and the whole match was absolute misery. Right, it was miserable. I was getting beat on because, like I said, I didn't know what to expect. He was throwing punches left, right. All I could do was block. Barely could roll with any of them. I could roll any of those punches. And I think back to that, I'm like, why was it so hard to fight him? At the end of the day, I could have stuck with my strategy, but I think that fear of his image, this big dude that's
mm,
clearly out of my
mm.
weight class that I'm sparring with. And I was like, man, maybe it was the image of him that was bringing the most fear. And when I think of images, I think of my imagination. And to me, how do I influence anxiety is I have to get a control over my imagination for one, and be okay with
Mm,
not being able to predict the future, not being able to expect anything to happen. Um yeah, so that's how I influence anxiety. I get a control over just myself and how I view a situation, how I view the unexpected. And it kind of brings me to an analogy that I was thinking about. Um, in a way, it's okay to be prepared, to be unprepared. Uh, in life, there's a lot of uncertainties, right? But sometimes it's okay to just go with it. And just how you can predict the forecast, you can't change the weather. And what does that mean? Well, think of like a spider. It builds its web in a corner somewhere and it just sits and waits. It waits for its prey. Over time, it gets shaken up by the wind. Over time, the rain might wash its web away. But just like the itsy bitsy spider, it does crawl back up again and builds a new web, probably in a safer place. But the key is it's waiting and it's patient and it rolls with those punches that Mother Nature throws at it. It
mm,
doesn't store up a bunch of bugs on its web out of fear that it's not going to be able to eat the next day. It patiently knows that eventually some insect's going to come. And if it doesn't,
mm.
it rebuilds a new web in a better place. So, yeah, that's how I take control of my anxiety. And I realize anxiety is just fear, and fear is just your imagination creating those unwanted scenarios. But I wanted to flip it back to you. Is there any psychology behind that, or is there any way to make actionable steps towards getting better with your anxiety?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. There's this term in the therapy world, part of acceptance and commitment therapy, called cognitive diffusion. And so when we're anxious, we tend to fuse with that identity of being anxious. So we tend to let anxiety take over and just worry and worry, worry about all the uncertainties in our life. And so something that can help us is to defuse from those worries, those thoughts about the uncertainties of life. And so, what does cognitive diffusion look like? It can be recognizing that you are bigger than anxiety. I know anxiety might seem scary, it might even be debilitating, but noticing anxiety for what it is, that it's not us, it's not who we are, it's just an experience that we go through. And so just having that diffusion, that separation in our mind can help us make it more manageable. And so one thing that you might do to diffuse from that is just to think about anxiety as an object. Like it's an object. How would you picture it? What color would it be? What size is it? And I'm sure um, maybe some examples might be it might be a hole or a box. But ultimately, what we come to the conclusion of is we don't need to control. We don't need to control our anxiety, control the uncertainties like Nick was talking about with those metaphors. We just need to be we just need to acknowledge that they're there, but that doesn't mean that they have to rule us. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking about of not letting anxiety take over our day to day. Like live it out day by day, like the spider. Just going with the flow. And then that's life. We're gonna there's gonna be things that we're anxious about. I'm not trying to minimize anxiety. I want to normalize that anxiety is present in all of our lives, whether it's a little bit or a lot. But we have that power over it, whether you get that power back over anxiety by trying new coping skills or going to therapy or doing whatever it is that helps you cope with anxiety. Try to do something to get your power back, and that's that actionable step.
Facts, facts. And I kind of wanted to follow up with that. Just some notes that I wrote down. like you said, separating that image, that imagination of anxiety, um, those are great actionable steps. And if you want to take it a step further, like you said, step one is to acknowledge how you view anxiety, is to notice. So when you do feel yourself anxious about, like, man, am I going to get this new job? Or, man, what's going to be 2024 later down the road? Like, what's life going to be? Just stop and notice that, hey, I'm starting to imagine it. I'm starting to, have that anxiety. And then step two, you can take it a step further, and you can fight anxiety. You can influence it. You can replace it with confidence. And what that means is you can be confident in yourself. For example, man, I might not get that job, but at least I'm confident in knowing that I'll get some valuable interview skills out of it, and I can take that to the next step. Or I don't know what this year is going to look like in terms of, the election or whatever, but I know we're a strong group of, whatever country you're in. I know we're going to get through it. And I know you guys are very resilient, because the fact that you're here is proof enough. We're all still here. And we just got to keep being confident in ourselves and believing there is a way to the other side. And if you don't have enough confidence in yourself, you can put it in others. You can put it in other people. You can put it in other situations, like having a backup plan. Hey, I might not get this job, but I'm confident that I can find another job with these set of skills. Or I know that at least I still, have such and such going for me in life. Whatever it may be, confidence beats anxiety. If you can replace it, that's the next step after noticing it. And yeah, I kind of wanted to flip it back to you. I know anxiety is such a big topic, it's nothing we really are open about, but all these actionable steps are great, but what is the flip side to that? Why
Mm.
is it so challenging to deal with anxiety?
What comes to mind for me is, why is it so hard to deal with anxiety? It's because we think of it as this huge thing that is weighing on us, like a weight, heavy weight on our shoulders, and we just want to like fight it. Like we want to get rid of it. We want to get rid of this weight. Like just somebody take it off of me. But in reality, we don't have to carry that weight on our shoulders. We can pick up the weight, put it over there, let anxiety be its own thing, and let you go about your day to day. Yes, it's still going to be there. There's still that recognition that it's there, but you're not letting it take over your being anymore. You're not letting it occupy space in your mind. You're not letting it occupy space on your back as a heavyweight. And that's kind of some principles that acceptance and commitment therapy go through. Um, just noticing, having that thought, I'm noticing that I am anxious, not fusing with the thought that I am an anxious person. There's
Mm.
two different things.
You're not your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I just wanted to bring up, I don't know why I thought about this, but I was thinking about anxiety. I was thinking about, what is my most anxiety provoking memory. Um, there's two, actually. There's two. I'll give them really quickly. So when I was a kid, I played tennis, and I don't know, we were what, like fifth grade or what? I don't know. We were really young. My first memory of a panic attack was when I was playing tennis in this tournament. I was just about to beat the guy to win the championship, and I was on my last serve, and I collapsed. I started shaking. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what was going on. It was tied, but I didn't know why. I felt like I was about to just lose, and I collapsed. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was having an asthma attack. You remember, like
Yep.
I was on
Yep.
the ground
Gotta get
squirming,
the
bro, fetal
inhaler.
position. I was like, "Where's my inhaler? Where's my inhaler?" And we go to the emergent care facility, and they're like, you're not having an asthma attack." They gave me some Gatorade and like, "Nah, you're fine." It didn't occur to me like till years later that was my first panic attack, the
Mm.
fear of losing, and I don't even know why I don't even know why I started to fear, because I was doing really well the whole tournament, but It's just that idea. My imagination got the best of me. It was like, man, what if I lost? And what if I did lost? I had still had a great time. So that and one more story. I know a lot of y'all probably have anxiety, when it comes to like dating. I don't think anyone's ever gone as far as I have to be stressed out about setting up a date. I remember my first date, bro. Oh my gosh. I was trying so hard to like make everything right. I was planning like, okay, we're gonna go here, after this, and then we're gonna pass this water fountain, and then the water fountain's gonna shoot up at a certain time, and I'm just gonna turn around and be like, bruh, just like that water fountain. I don't even know what I said. Something lame, like just like that water fountain
Okay,
flows.
Riz.
So about my Riz was, bro. My Riz was on point, bro. My plan was perfect. I had thought about everything from the matching our outfits to um contacting like the cupcake store or whatever to like make sure like, hey, do you got this cupcake in store? Because like she like red velvet or whatever. Bruh, all my anxiety, all my planning mounted to nothing. It rained that day, so I didn't get to see the water fountain. Um, the cupcake place was closed, just because they had some problems with their manager, and like all my stuff was shot out of the window. I remember the night before that date, I was like almost in a panic attack, and I just remember after the date, like we just chilled and hung out, and like that was good enough. All that worry was for nothing. Like all that stuff I tried to
Mm,
manifest, it didn't manifest. It was just my imagination. So like I
mm,
said, you really can try to predict the forecast, but you can't change the weather. And I keep saying it again, man. I know if I have to go through that, I just can't imagine what everyone else's anxiety is like. But I know you're gonna
mm.
get through it. And at the other side, it's gonna be just as good. So yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, one second before we go there. On another note, I
Mhm.
just want to say, man, the dedication that you had to plan that date, that you should give yourself a pat on the back for that. That's what's up right there.
But it didn't go.
Even
It
though it
didn't
didn't turn
amount to
out to be,
nothing.
but the thought that you put into it, girls like thoughtfulness, so I'm sure she
I don't care.
appreciated regardless.
Ever since then, I ain't tried as near as hard. It was not worth it. Oh my gosh. But definitely let us know in the comments, like, what is your most anxiety provoking moment? What was your like biggest, thing you had anxiety over? Let us know. Let's open it for discussion. Let us know what, you did to combat it or how it ended up. It can't be
Hmm.
worse than mine.
It could be.
Good, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for listening, y'all. Like Nick said, put those thoughts in the comments, to the question of how did anxiety influence you versus how did you influence anxiety. And yeah, we just want to know what y'all are thinking, what y'all did, and what y'all are going through. But thank you for listening. We hope to see y'all on the next episode.
You're